too bad.
Yeah. When did you come back?
From Dallas?
Yeah.
I came back that Friday night.
And
DJ.
yeah, because let's see, Ruben was here, and you was out. You out Monday? When were you out? Monday, Tuesday?
I think Monday.
Tuesday? Yeah, Monday.
Were you here Monday too?
I wasn't here. Michelle was here, and when I called in, I think she said Ruben was here.
Yeah, I had a deal Monday night, and then.
Jay, you're taking on a whole new look there with the beard, the glasses, and of course the hat's always been there. But yeah, you're taking on a whole new look. Yeah, you look more mature or something. I don't know what the word is.
Because I've heard so many people tell me I look more mature.
Yeah, yeah. Now you don't ever want to start looking old, but you are looking more mature. The kid face is going away.
It's about time. Give me a minute on these TVs.
Oh yeah. Take your time. I'm not in a hurry.
I'm gonna need some help. We can still do the show. I'm just gonna need some help from
to
somebody to get these.
Bringing that up. Okay, cool.
But I'm ready to roll on the show whenever you are. Buddy.
Well, hey, let's rock and roll.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
Well, people of the Arklatex, I have returned to the airwaves here on this Friday. It is the weekend show. My goodness, it seems as though I have been gone. Well, I have been gone just about all week long. I've been gone all week long and have been on tour throughout North Texas. Have had some wonderful times out there with grassroots people, Americans in North Texas. I will be headed to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia next week. I'll actually run into Karen Handel, as well as others on the campaign trail there that have been on the campaign trail in in Georgia and South Carolina. Talking to folks who made some things happen that I think were absolutely magical, blessed by God on this past week. I think that there have been incredible victories that we have experienced as grassroots people, conservatives here in our nation. And the beat goes on with those who are naysayers about where we can and should be going as far as health care. We're going to talk about all of that here today. It's one of those days where I'll get a chance to speak with you, just you and I. I do have Kathy Hartkoff and Alan Page coming into the studio, both with Freedom Works, my company that I am a senior fellow with. We've been out there together, and we'll be together next week as well. They're right here in the jewel cities of the Arklatex with us. I want to thank all of our friends throughout the Fruited Plains, the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, for coming along with us on this journey that we have been on for the last 3 years. And quite frankly, I told you last Friday that this 3-year period has been an incredible opportunity, has been an incredible journey for us. I do need to tell you, though, that all of that is evolving very quickly. And I'll tell you a story in the next block that will sort of set the table, set the stage for you as far as where and what you can expect to see C.L. Bryant doing in the very near future. And so we will be spending some time together, some you and me time together. And I certainly want to be, I certainly want to be open and candid with you as far as what is going on and what to expect. But just the same, all in all, It has been one heck of a party. It has been one heck of a party. And we're going to continue it here into next week. And we'll see. Man, the cough, Jay, again, amen. There it is. But we'll see just how this pans out. Jay, you've been on the road too, haven't you?
Absolutely, yeah. I was in Dallas a little bit.
Yeah, doing your thing, doing that Jay Watley thing. And folks, you keep that name, Jay Watley, at the front of your mind. Keep it. Write it down. Write Jay Watley down, because all of us, I do believe, in not too many days hence, will be saying, I remember when Jay was in Shreveport. Now he's in New York City doing his thing. And of course, here we are in the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. And that is America. Don't you ever forget that. That is America. And I certainly will be saying that from 30,000 feet, hopefully here real soon. You'll hear about it. You'll see it. You'll know what's going on. But I'll talk to you more about it as the show goes on today. And remember these words: Red State Talk Radio. And I am looking forward to sharing with our nation, indeed the world, the great message that comes from right here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier City. And let me say this, too, folks. Let me tell you this. There is no better place. And I've just come off the road and I'm about to go on the road, and then I'll be headed out to California. And Coulter and I are setting up to do something to try and oust Maxine Waters. Oh, I'll be telling you about it in days come. Ann Coulter and I are going to team up, hopefully, to do something to oust Maxine Waters. And it seems as though Nancy Pelosi, they're calling for her ouster even as we speak. Yeah, they're calling for her ouster even as we speak. The health care revolution, one that we shouldn't be having anyway, the beat goes on with it. There's no question about it. I really don't know why we're in this conversation about what government's going to do as far as providing you and me health care. They're going to take back the levels of Medicaid back before the Obama administration levels. That's where they're going to take that back to. But you have people up in arms thinking that it's going to go away. It will not go away. Medicaid is not going to go away. Medicare will not be touched. But everybody who's in an uproar about Medicaid, don't be, because it is not going away over a period of 2 to 4 years, I believe it is. It will be reduced back to where it was during or before the Obama administration, before Obamacare. And quite frankly, that wasn't really bad, because I've never been on Medicaid. I don't know anything about Medicaid, but just the same, it's free for all intents and purposes, from what I understand. If somebody knows differently than that, let me know. The mandate, well, maybe that goes away too. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm CL. Don't go anywhere. Be right back. Yeah, it very well could be, especially with people like Johnny Depp. You guys, are y'all familiar with Johnny? Well, you remember Johnny Depp. He's not a bad actor. I don't know why all these actors seem to want to weigh in on this president. The president who was doing them damage, keep in mind, they didn't weigh in on at all. Why? Because he was a part of the entire plan. Yeah. The president who was doing them damage, and he was, because he was destroying the fiber of the nation. And there go my liberal friend saying, you know, I thought he had gotten over that. I thought he had moved on past Obama. No, you can't, because you have to look at the comparison of how the two are treated. And there is no good reason why there is a disparity in the way you look at the presidency of one and the presidency of another. Either way, it is the presidency. And folks, that's a 4-year deal unless they're reelected. I, for the life of me, can't understand why the people are becoming unglued over the election of a president. I've seen it on the campaign trails. I've seen it in these last few days that I've been gone. I'm going to see it as I go out to North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia, and then out to California. I'm going to be seeing it. I'm going to be seeing it when I head up to New York here in a couple of days. I'm going to see it in Colorado when I go into Colorado next month. I'm going to be seeing it. All of those places I've just mentioned, too, are also places where my radio show, the C.L. Bryant Show, will be coming on air. And folks, I need to, well, we'll be wall to wall in a cyberspace way. There, I'm telling you about it. It'll be cyberspace way, but we'll also have terrestrial radio too. But there are reasons why we're able to look at the markets I have just mentioned. And that is because we are needing to bring not only not unique questions, but perspective. The questions are always there. The questions have always been asked and answered many times over. Always have been there. But perspective, sometimes perspective is not as fresh as it could be. And the thing that I have certainly tried to do is give you an honest perspective without pulling punches on race, creed, or color. And I am telling you that when you are looking at someone like Eric Holder saying he wants to run, or he's exploring the options of running for president of the United States, let me say this from my perspective to Eric Holder. Obama exhausted the black card as far as president was concerned. Please hear me. And you're very thinking about running for president of the United States, former Attorney General Eric Holder tells all of us just how out of touch you and the Democrats are with the people. Because Holder, Eric, and his good friend, my good friend Babette Holder, his first cousin, my good friend and Babette and I are going to have a long discussion about this. Because the question that I have for Eric Holder, don't you know that people were so tired of you when you were Attorney General? We could not wait for you to step down. When you were Attorney General, what makes you think? What sign in the tea leaves? What could possibly make you think that you would be a viable candidate for president? Is it Nancy Pelosi whispering in your ear? I don't think so. Is it Flores, who is the Democrat DNC chairperson? I don't think so. I don't think so. Who is it? Obama telling you that you should run for president? It's certainly not the victims of the families of the victims, rather, of Fast and Furious, or any of the other scams and atrocities that happened under your watch. But you know what, Eric? Full disclosure, I hope they do run you. I hope you do run. And I certainly hope DJT decides to run again in 2020, because he will beat you like a drum, especially after the nation is seeing that America is on its way back to former greatness. It's happening. It's happening. Can't you see that all the money that the Dems can throw at trying to derail the great freight train of draining the swamp, all the money that they have tried to throw at that, the Hollywood money, the George Soros money, the progressive liberals are still losing. Some of the races are close, but of course they're close without Republicans spending the kind of money that they ought to be, that they could have spent. So, here we are with the bankrupting going on in the last 8 years of the endowment. Now, we have an opportunity to reinfuse into the American landscape the quality, the meaning of the endowment. And the liberals are running around with their heads on fire. You want to see good old American entertainment, comedy. You want to see good old American comedy? Tune in CNN. Tune in MSNBC. They are apoplectic. They don't know what to do. All they can do is scream and shout. And friends, I love every minute of them being on the hot griddle of politics that DJT, Donald J. Trump, is turning up day by day. I'm CL. We'll be back in just a minute. CL, back with you on this Friday, the weekend show, and I certainly do thank each and every one of you throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth for coming along with me on this great American journey. Hey, I have had an opportunity to be out among the folks here this last week. I was at a place, I mentioned it to you the other day. I was up in Van Alstyne, Texas. And folks, I got to tell you something. If you like, and this is the word, if you like quaint little towns, then, hey, Van Alstyne is the place to be. But you know what's so amazing about Van Alstyne, Texas? There I was in Van Alstyne, Texas, and they were telling me about the political woes that they have even in Van Alstyne, Texas. And I got to tell you something. Small town, large town, regardless of what it is, you have political woes. You have people who are worried about corruption and all that type thing, and regardless of what type town it is. I happen to have had dinner that night and spoke at this place that they had vacated out for us. It was called the Buck Snort Barbecue. And if you ever through Van Alstyne, Texas, not on Monday or Tuesday night, because Buck Snort is closed on Monday or Tuesday night, and Van Alstyne really isn't that far out of Dallas, just north of Dallas, to Dallas, right above McKinney, right there at McKinney, Allen, Texas, right there. If you get a chance to visit Van Alstyne, Texas, it is an absolute pleasure to be there. But like I just told you, the politics of the place is the same as anywhere else. It is in chaos. You wouldn't think it just to walk down the streets, to look at the beautiful little shops there, to go into the very picturesque and rustic, that's the word, the rustic buildings that are in Van Alstyne. But there is politics, and it goes on. And it's amazing to think that on a small scale, local politics can be just as gloves off, blood sport, as national politics. Just as blood sport as national politics. And folks, let me tell you something. I really did enjoy it. Coming up in the show is someone who's going to talk to us about that. And that's going to be Kathy Hartkoff, and along with her is her sidekick, Alan Page. He don't like talking much on radio, so we're going to let Kathy do the talking. They're visiting here with us in the jeweled cities of the Arctics, Shreveport and Bossier here. And of course, your native son will be bringing them to you. So we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about a time of no guarantees here a little bit later on in the show. Also, I want to bring you up to speed on the bankrupting of our nation as far as the way this health care bill is shaking out. As all of you know, I am no fan of the Congress or the Senate or big government having any hand in what we do as far as our personal medicine is concerned. Provide it for the poor, make it affordable for those who work, and that's all we need them to do. We don't need any mandates on it. We don't need government telling us, or our physicians in particular, how we should be managed as far as health is concerned. We have let this get out of hand. But the comfort of having someone oversee us is frightening. And friends, I am afraid that we are moving further and further into the level of being comfortable with people overseeing our affairs. They oversee our education. They oversee our health care. They're beginning to oversee even how your faith is spoken, how your speech is delivered. They are becoming overseers. And I will share with you what I have always shared with you over this 3-year period that I've been on air with you here about the slave not necessarily seeking freedom, the slave seeking the comfort of being overseen. I want to share that with you here as time goes by. in this show. Coming up in the show will be, again, Kathy Hartkoff, grassroots coordinator for the largest grassroots organization in the nation, and that is Freedom Works. We boast 6.2 million activists, people just like those of you who listen to this show here in this country. People just like you, and you become active with FreedomWorks. Go to freedomworks.org, freedomworks.org. I also want to talk to you a little bit later on in the show, in the second hour of the show. I want to talk to you about what we have been taught to laugh at and how it's no laughing matter anymore. And I want to bring to your attention again something that I did share on the road these last days, and something I'll be sharing on the road as I go out next week. The idea that people are not appreciative, ungrateful for what we have here as a great American nation, and that is the right to exercise our endowment to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. I'm CL. Be back with Freedom Works, Kathy Hartkoff, when I return.
Broadcasting from the Bayou State and all around the Gulf Coast and streaming nationwide. This is the C.L. Bryant Show.
CL, your native son, back with you on this Friday night here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport, and Bossier City. I thank all of you for coming along with us as we stream nationwide throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. You folks in North Carolina, there, WLTT 1180 in Wilmington, thank you for coming along. And you folks in southern Arkansas, East Texas, you too. I certainly do enjoy all of the tweets and emails and correspondence I get from those of you out about in the country, the encouragement. We are evolving here with the show. I have to let you know that we are evolving, and keep in mind the words Red State Radio, Red State Talk Radio, their biggest cyber platform in the nation, and cyberspace is actually where communication is going here in the future. I'll be talking to you about that in the days to come. But first, now I want to bring on someone, well, actually there's two of them, but there's one of them that doesn't really want to talk on radio, so we're going to let Kathy talk on the radio, and Alan, we're going to bring him in here as well a little bit later on. I think I have used my powers of persuasion to get him to say something as well a little bit later on. But Kathy Hartkoff, welcome. I think it's the first time you've been on the show in studio. Is that right?
It is, CL. Thank you for the invitation. I'm happy to be here.
Well, glad that you're here. I certainly hope that you enjoy your time here in our great little city of Shreveport, Louisiana, my hometown. Shreveport, Louisiana, place that I truly love, and we're going to try to take it on the road with us as we expand. Now, Kathy, we have been on the road. We've been out there. We've been to tell folks some of the places we've been these last few days.
Oh, my goodness. We have been all over North Texas, bringing the message of lower tax, less government, and more freedom to the activists, to the street. As CL was saying, we're the largest national grassroots organization in America. We have been called the Army that builds the Army. And it's just my pleasure to help with that. I work directly with the activists that make up the Freedom Works team.
Army that builds the Army. You know, Kathy, I have not used that in a while, but I'm going to start using it again.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's real good. That's real good because, folks, that is exactly what Freedom Works is all about. Alan Page, you've been with Freedom Works for how many years now? And has there been an evolution? Is there a difference from what we were to what we are now? How's that coming about as far as the evolution of it is concerned?
Been with Freedom Works now for 18 years.
Wow.
And we're basically now a facilitator, helping out fellow conservative, liberty-minded organizations across the country.
And that's exactly why you should go to freedomworks.org, folks, to become a part of the Army that builds the Army, the largest grassroots organization in the nation. And Kathy, the feeling, the mood that we were able to gauge from those on the ground. You had sort of a hodgepodge, a mixture of moods. You had people who were very much enthusiastic and very much encouraged about what the future holds. Then you had some who were much more pessimistic. Do you think that that is basically the mood throughout America at this point in time?
You know, I do think that that's sort of the mood, CL. I mean, and it comes and goes with election cycles, and it comes and goes, very often with what's happening on the national scene, with regard to issues and debate. Healthcare being one of the things right now. We had a lot of questions this week about healthcare reform and what exactly is going on in Washington, D.C., and most of us agreed that overall, right now, it's not too positive.
Right.
It was really interesting, I think, to hear from the people on the ground and to get their perspectives. I think that one of the things that's most important about one of these tours is not only bringing educational information into the field, but listening to activists, truly listening to the people of America about what their concerns are, and then taking that information back to our staff in Washington, D.C. We're all about teaching everyday Americans that they have a voice and how to use that voice to impact change in public policy. And I think we were very successful this week in doing that.
I believe we were, Kathy, and of course, folks, I have traveled countless thousands of miles now with Alan Page in particular and Kathy. And, Kathy, one thing you mentioned, and I think it sometimes people are not as aware as they should be. They do have a voice, don't they?
Oh, absolutely they do. I mean, I think people feel like they're one vote, and that one vote can't make a difference. But in America, one vote can be everything. But even more than that, every American has a voice. Every American can stand up and express their opinion. And they can work to build their own little army. It might be 3 people that can turn the tide in a local election or on a local issue. All it takes is people standing together, educating themselves about their issue or their candidate, and then making that known to other people.
And Kathy, there are other hot button issues that we have in Freedom Works, civil assets forfeiture being one of them. I want to talk a little bit about that when we return, and also some of the things that are going on in North Carolina. And you and Alan are both very much engaged in that. And I am of the opinion that North Carolina is going to be, well, it already is, a major player in national politics in order, I think, from this point on to win the White House resoundingly. The presidents of the United States, the future presidents of the United States are going to have to win North Carolina. I want to get your take on that. I want to say this to all of our sponsors over the last 3 years, that I want to thank each and every one of you for having come along with us on this journey. And there'll still be a platform for you as well here in the months, days, and weeks to come. Got a lot to talk about today. I'm going to return in the next block with Kathy Hartkoff and Alan Page, if I can coax another word out of him, as they visit here in the jeweled cities of the Arklatex. And wherever you're listening to the show, you can rest assured that we will be coming to a city near you right soon. An army, Kathy, how'd you say it's an army army building an army? How'd you say that?
It's an army working to build an army.
An army working to build an army. Become a part of it, each and every one of you out there. And I would dare say about 95% of my audience has to be conservatives like I am. You may not be a Republican, but if you're listening to this show, you're certainly of a conservative slant, even if you don't know it. And there are so many of you out there that I talk to that I have identified as liberals. But yet, there's so much that we agree on. And that's what we have been doing over these past 3 years, is doing the very best we can to build that bridge to civil conversation. I'm CL. Back in a minute.
Back in 1966. Country Jesus, he'll be the blues. That's where I learned my live. Up from coast to coast and line to line to every county there. I'm talking about that outlaw X's cutting through the air. Anywhere, y'all, everywhere, y'all. I heard it, I heard it, I heard it on the X.
CL. Back with you, yes. Proud of it. Born in the USA. I'm glad to be one. Our homeland, our hometowns, wherever you are, wherever you call home, be proud. Born in the USA. Kathy, the politics in North Carolina, you know, I was talking to the folks before you and Alan came in. Even in a little place like Van Alstyne, they have their drama as far as politics is concerned. We won't go into the particulars, but they have their drama too, and they can actually hear us there in Van Alstyne on some wavelengths. They can actually hear us. But North Carolina has certainly been a battlefield locally, and it certainly has had some national issues that have come out of that. Why is North Carolina, my question, why is North Carolina, you feel, shaping up to be a bellwether state?
You know, North Carolina, and looking at it, what's happening politically is really interesting. You know, it's sort of a case study, you know, as a sociologist would examine it. You know, we have had a number of very hot-button issues recently that I don't think were intended to become national issues, but have. I mean, for example, the so-called bathroom bill in North Carolina, you know, which I'm sure most of your viewers have heard about because it made national news day after day. And it actually was the impetus for similar legislation in other states. You know, it actually kicked off so-called bathroom bills around the nation. You know, we've had that. We have had major redistricting plans that have led to actual lawsuits that have been heard on the federal level. And this past election was interesting in that North Carolina Republicans now control both houses of the state legislature, the House and the Senate. Republicans did hold the gubernatorial mansion until the last election when the Republican Party lost its governor. So North Carolina now has the House and the Senate held by the Republicans, but a Democrat governor. And they are head-to-head every day.
Yeah.
And again, it's national news.
Yeah. And you know what? Right here in Louisiana, we face the same thing. We have a conservative House, conservative Senate, but we have a very progressive governor. And it is, in fact, our Attorney General, my good friend, is on the show regularly, Jeff Landry, is, even lawsuits have come about. And so there is turmoil. I was surprised, though, that the Republican governor there, who was, I felt, standing strong for the people, how did he lose that race, in your estimation?
There's a lot of speculation about how Governor Pat McCrory lost his race. There are people who would talk about, the voting inequity. There are people who talk about a lot of problems that were later discussed, problems with sites remaining openly, problems with lost ballots, all sorts of problems. We're never going to know that for sure. What I will tell you is that there was a lot of controversy in addition. There was the bathroom bill.
Yeah.
There has been a lot of discussion about whether that was a planned thing, whether it was actually planned to try to take down the Republican governor of North Carolina.
Yeah.
He was placed in a very difficult position in regard to exactly what to do about that bill. He was the governor as opposed to the North Carolina General Assembly after all.
Wow.
But as the governor of North Carolina, let's face it, his head was the one on the proverbial chopping block when people talked about North Carolina and that bathroom bill.
Yeah.
There were some other issues. There are some major toll road issues being debated right now in North Carolina.
Do you have the toll roads there now?
Well, we do have some toll roads, but they're starting to build more toll roads, and that's the whole thing, and there's a faction of the Republican Party that does not, conservative activists more so, who simply do not support toll roads.
No, I mean, I think personally, folks, and I got to tell you this. I mean, whenever I travel, say, through Texas or wherever, it just seems to me like a racket. The toll roads seem like it's racketeering. I'm telling you it is. Kathy, speaking of racketeering, there is something that has been called policing for profit. That, of course, is a hot-button issue with the FreedomWorks crowd. And it's called civil asset forfeiture or civil forfeiture, asset forfeiture. It has several names. And I was never more surprised than I was at one of our meetings the other night when I asked the question, who here know what I am saying when I talk about civil asset forfeiture? And there was a room full of people. No hand.
Absolutely.
No hand went up. Do you think that may be the case for by and large?
I do, CL. I mean, I think the number one problem in changing civil asset forfeiture laws at the state and the federal level right now continues to be the fact that everyday Americans have no idea what asset forfeiture is, unless it's happened to you. And basically what happens with asset forfeiture is a government agency can seize your property without due process. So what it is it's flipped around. Instead of innocent until proven guilty, your property is, in effect, guilty until you have to prove it innocent.
And many times you don't have the money to do that.
Absolutely not. I mean, we are seeing cases across America where people eventually might get their property back, but only if they had the money to fight it. But they're losing restaurants, they're losing businesses, they're losing homes in the process because it's taking so much money to prove that your property was innocent in the first place.
And most of the time, folks, even if you get money back, you get only a portion of your money back. What do they use? And Kathy, I want you to stay with me through the break, this next break, for one more segment. What then are they, or is the motivation for the municipalities and government, local governmental bodies to seize? What's the motivation for them to seize your assets? What is that motivation?
Well, it's exactly what you said. It is policing for profit. You know, these seizing agencies get to keep a large percentage, you know, often close to 90% of whatever it is they've seized. You know, so if it's cash, obviously that's the easy thing for them. They're keeping a large percentage. If it's something like a home or a boat or a car that eventually is sold, the agency that did the seizing keeps a large percentage of that. So policing for profit just is the best way I can think of to describe it.
And that is, folks, something that we will continue to talk about, because you're asking, I know, right now, can that happen to me? If you're an American, it can happen to you. And if you're an American and not aware of what civil asset forfeiture is, judicial asset forfeiture, it has several names. You need to become very aware of it and join the fight to rail against it, rally against it. How is it possible that your items, your stuff, your money, your car, or your boat becomes a defendant in and it becomes a criminal? Your money becomes a criminal. Your boat, your house can become a criminal. Not you. They let you go. You're the one who has to pay. I'm CL. Back with Kathy Hartkoff, Alan Page, FreedomWorks, freedomworks.org, when I return. CL, the home stretch now of the CL Bryant Show. Welcome to the second hour, and thank you so much for coming along with us wherever you are throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known, and that is America. It is I, your native son, CL Bryant, here on the CL Bryant Show. I have been on these last few segments with Kathy Hartkoff and let's start to say Alan Jackson. Alan Page. Alan Page is here. Not the football player, by the way. But yeah, I think he dreams of being Alan Page in some of his Superman type dreams. But Alan Page is here with me. Alan, before we get back to Kathy and talking about civil assets forfeiture, and folks, I want you to stay tuned because there's a story that I want Kathy to share with us on what can happen to average Joe and Jane American here as far as your property, your assets being seized. But Alan, the future of FreedomWorks and the future, is it so bright that we're having to wear shades? Where are we going? How are we approaching the future as far as FreedomWorks is concerned as an 18-year vet? How do you see it?
It's extremely bright, CL, and all because we are constantly getting in front of new groups and organizations to recruit more liberty-minded activists and all. Because as you know, each election cycle, some folks will phase out, and we need to bring new ones on, and all. And we've been real successful with that.
So the future is bright. Time is right. The time is definitely right to become a part of the Army, working to build an army, as Kathy put that, and go to freedomworks.org, freedomworks.org, and become a part of that movement. And the revolution is definitely televised. It's certainly on radio. Kathy, most people, as we were saying, don't know what civil asset forfeiture is. Most people, if they are hearing us right now, they're saying to themselves, well, that can never happen to me. We're going to share with you now, Kathy, if you'd share with them a story of an American that this did and has happened to. And folks, I want you to put your face in the story.
Absolutely. Thank you, CL. So as CL was saying, it seems that one of the biggest problems is that people have never heard about civil asset forfeiture. And I think most people don't know until it happens to them. So as with everything, education is key here. An example of this is there was a young man by the name of Mandrell Stewart. Mandrell Stewart was driving on a highway in the state of Virginia. He had cash on his person. His family had owned a family barbecue restaurant for many, many years. Mandrell was traveling to another town to purchase restaurant equipment for that family barbecue restaurant.
And he had cash.
He had cash. Mm-hmm. Mandrell Stewart was pulled over. He was asked if he had cash. His car was searched. Now, Mandrell Stewart had some minor offenses in his history. You know, you never know exactly what alerts a police agency to any car, to any specific car. You know, sometimes it's as simple as a broken taillight. So Mandrell was pulled over. He was asked about cash. He told the officer that he had this cash and he had it with him because he was traveling to buy restaurant equipment. Mandrell Stewart's cash was seized because according to the seizing police agency, surely, if Mandrell Stewart had cash on his person, it was being used to commit some type of crime.
Wow.
So his cash was guilty. It was presumed guilty. Now, Mandrell Stewart fought. He fought it in the courts. He got some work done pro bono from an organization such as FreedomWorks, you know, that believes in innocent until proven guilty, the American principle of due process.
Right.
He got his money back eventually, but in the process, his family lost their barbecue restaurant.
Wow.
You know, and we're hearing this kind of story all over America. Now, the bright side to the Mandrell Stewart stories, you know, I said it happened in the state of Virginia.
Right.
Virginia had one of the most egregious state-level civil asset forfeiture laws.
Wow.
FreedomWorks works closely with the Tea Party group in Virginia who said, by goodness, we have got to fix this for Mandrell Stewart and every citizen in the state of Virginia. And they did just that. You know, they worked with their state legislators. They had a state senator who was a major roadblock to asset reform. They just aggravated him until he got in the right corner and did the right thing. And now the state of Virginia has one of the most private property rights protective statutes across America.
The citizens changed that.
Yes. Yes, and that's what I was saying about how every American has a voice, you know, and we are here to help them learn how to use the voice.
Yes. And folks, you know this. We preach it on this radio show on a daily basis that government begins at your kitchen table. That is where it begins. Kathy, if the citizens had not become engaged, it appears that there were certain targets that police did have profiled. In other words, and folks, you know, I think profiling in many cases is a very good thing. But in this case, where they're looking to take your money, that's not a good thing when they're, because listen, when my son bought his first car, I thought we could get a better deal if we went to the automobile dealership, buying a second-hand car, just buying him a little, hoopty-doo, hoopty. I bought him a hoopty, but he was able to get around and get to work and so forth. And so I thought we'd get the best deal if we went to the car dealership or the car lot with cash. Mm-hmm. And folks, I know there are many of you out there who have had this same situation, where you send your kid, you send whoever, your wife, whatever, to purchase something with the cash, because the cash many times helps you negotiate a better deal. What if your son's pulled over with, say, $4,000 or $5,000, and they are going to the automobile dealership to purchase a car, but yet that money's seized? What is it going to take for you to act? Evidently, these folks got on board with Mandrell Stewart. I'll be back to say goodbye to Kathy Hartkoff and Alan Page at the top of the next segment, and then I got to spend some quality time with you as we head down the home stretch of the C.L. Bryant Show. Be right back. CL, back with you on this weekend show, Friday, gateway to the weekend, and I certainly do appreciate each and every one of you coming along. I've been on here with Kathy Hartkoff, Freedom Works Grassroots Coordinator, and Alan Page, who is our Southern Regional Director for Freedom Works. Kathy, where are we headed next? What's going on?
Well, next week we have a series of events focusing on deregulation. You know, under the Obama administration, the number of regulations that hit the books was just astounding. And so we're working closely with the new administration to try to turn back some of those regulations. We have Patrick from our D.C. office traveling with Alan, CL, and I next week in 3 different states, focusing on the need for deregulation.
Patrick Hedger is going to be out there with us, and he is one of those honchos. He's been on the show, folks, a couple of times, and certainly do appreciate him. Alan, I guess Jane and I are going to hook up with you and Kathy a little bit later on here after the show on the trail. There, got to show you a little bit of Shreveport. And hey, you folks, if you want to stop on by Ernest, come on in and see Mr. Ernest there at Ernest Supper Club. You just might bump into us there at Ernest. I'm going to let Alan and Kathy show Alan and Kathy just how good the eats can be here in the jewel cities of the Arklatex, Shreveport and Bossier. I want to thank both of you for coming in. Kathy, if folks want to get a hold of you and bring you in and talk to them, how do they do that?
Oh, I'm easy to find. Just go to freedomworks.org, click on staff, and you'll find me, Kathy Hartkoff at FreedomWorks.
Alan, that's about the way it is with you too, isn't it?
That is correct. Same way.
Just go to freedomworks.org, click on staff, and you'll see all three of our good-looking faces. I'm CL, and thank you again for being on with me. Thank both of you. Now, folks, the great endowment that is ours, we certainly have appreciated you being champions of that endowment, being champions of what America is all about over this 241-year period of time. But in the week and a half that's left, the week and a half that is left before we celebrate the 241st anniversary of our Declaration of Independence, there must be an accounting for who we have become over a 241-year period of time. We're going to have to account for it because something is definitely not right. Something has twisted the mindset. Something has twisted the way Americans feel about themselves. And in the political sphere that we are in, there is a definite opposing juggernaut. Two of them, that juggernauts, titans, that are battling furiously against each other with furious anger. One of them is going to win, and one of them will definitely lose. If, in fact, the progressive liberal mindset, Titan mindset, wins the day, America will lose, in my estimation. But if we are able to take the country back and don't fall for the liberal rhetoric of trying to take it back to the 50s, the 40s, the 20s, or even 1865, that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about wrestling back the power that is invested in this country from those who would corrupt the power of our nation in a big government fashion. Taking it back and making the people once again understand that it is them. It is the people who lend their power. Your power, you lend it. Your power, you give it to whoever it is you allow to represent you, starting with your school boards, your city council members. That's a question wherever you are in this country. I want to ask you that question. Do you even know who your city councilman is? Huh? Do you? Do you know who your commissioner is? Do you know the name of the police chief? Do you know that there are people who don't know the name of the mayor of their city? They don't know. Hey, I bet you, I defy you, I challenge you. Do your own man on the street. Just ask someone. Be careful doing this these days. I hate to tell you that, but you do have to be careful doing this these days. Asking people anything. Ask maybe your college student. Ask maybe your child's friend who the mayor is. What's the name of the police chief? What's the governor's name? You'll be shocked. I'll be back. CL, home stretch of the CL Bryant Show. Glad you came along with me. When I left you, I was telling you that what you ought to do is conduct your own poll. Just do a little friendly poll among people you know, like your children, your grandchildren, or your college student, neighbors, what have you. Ask them who the city councilman is. Ask them, and they should know who the mayor is. I mean, but you'll be surprised. Some people don't know who the governor of this state is. They don't know who their state senator or their state representatives are. They have no clue who they are. But yet, they have an opinion on the president. Are you hearing me? They have no clue how that president got into office. They have opinions on Obamacare and the deregulate and the repeal of that. They have opinions on it, but they don't know who their city councilman or their state representatives or their state senators. Certainly not those who represent them in the United States House of Representatives or the United States Senate. They don't know. But they do have their complaints about major legislation. Are you seeing how asinine that is? Are you understanding why you need to get engaged with what's going on so that you will understand better how to attack and approach the things that you are complaining about? Nothing wrong with the complaining. Oh, don't get me wrong on that. There is nothing wrong with the complaining at all, but complain about it with some type of knowledge of what you're talking about. Because I'm telling you, they have there has been a movement that has preyed upon our collective ignorance over a long period of time. And I was telling you that I was going to share with you how we've gotten here. I've shared this with you before, but I always find that the audience that I speak to and spoke to no less than 1,000 people over this last little tour, this many boot camps that we give. They're always amazed at what I have to say about how we got here. Especially when I talk about the racial aspect of it and how we got here racially. The racial aspect of it. We got here because they found out, and I'm talking about progressive liberal Hollywood, they found out that the easiest way to sell division would be to get us to laugh at it. Yeah. And it just didn't start 5, 10, 15 years ago. It started back in the early 70s. They got us to laugh at things that were not funny. And they did it in ways that were inequitable and in ways that would definitely paint lasting stereotypes in our minds up until this present time. And let me tell you something, folks. When we look at those vehicles that they created to create the rock-solid stereotypes, many times when I talk about this, I get emails and texts and so forth saying that can't be true. But yes, it is. I'm going to tell you this. I'm going to share this with you. So stay with me. Because when we talk about Archie Bunker, when we talk about Good Times, when we talk about the Jeffersons, when we talk about those types of shows, when we talk about Chico and the Man, we are talking about shows that were designed to create stereotypes in the minds of Americans. And I am telling you that those stereotypes have held for the last 45 years. They have held. And the reason they have held is because there is a defiant ignorance, not only of the method of enslaving you, not only of the methods of bringing you into the pen, the corral, the plantation, whatever you want to call it. You're ignorant of the way those methods work. You're ignorant of how that works. And folks, I am telling you right now that we must overcome all of this. We're going to have to overcome all of this. I'm going to take them one by one, the shows that I have named when I return. Archie Bunker, The Jeffersons, Good Times, Chico and the Man. I'm going to take them one by one. And I'm going to share with you how they actually stereotyped. And I'm going to share with you the imbalance, the inequity in the way they have been treated racially in this country. I'm going to share with you the imbalance of how they are treated even today in this country. And I am going to show you that there has been an absolute plan. There has been an absolute design in directing the narrative in how we look at race and how we look at television characters in this country, beginning with those shows. Now, I will say this as a caveat. There came along a show a little bit later on in the 80s, the Cosbys. Well, actually, started, I guess, in the late 70s, then the early 80s. The Cosbys that tried to break the stereotype, using at times stereotypes. and offshoots from that show, from the Cosby Show, there came the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and others that were stereotypical. We're going to talk about it when I return. I'm CL. Don't go anywhere. CL, back with you on the top of the hour here on the weekend show. It's Friday. The jewel cities of the Arklatex and throughout the fruited plains of the greatest nation on the face of the earth, the greatest success story the world has ever known. And the question has been here for us in America, how did we get to this point? How did we get to this stage in America where we are wondering, is this still the 1960s and 70s? We're still talking about profiling, but where did the profiling come from? How did those images get into our heads? They were programmed in. Starting with Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker was an a middle-aged, at the time, I guess you would want to, I guess maybe you were calling a 50-ish white man old. Not these days, since 70 is the new 50. Oh, yeah. And it really is. It really is. But they painted him and anybody who had his ideas, even though seldom they used the word conservative, they painted Archie Bunker as what you wanted a conservative to appear to be. And his wife was somewhat subservient. In fact, his pet word for her was dingbat. The liberal guy who was his son-in-law was painted as someone who was oppressed and fought for the oppressor. He was always out trying to protest. And his daughter grew up with a father who actually absolutely loved her, but totally misunderstood her. That was the image of Archie Bunker, but this is the diabolical image that they painted of him that stereotyped him and others who would appear to be like him from that time to this time. Anyone who appeared to have the same type of core value beliefs that Archie had, even though he was not a churchgoer or anything like that, in the show, they painted him as someone who was racist. Oh yeah, Archie was painted as a racist. Rightly so or not, in the character I'm talking about, they painted him as a racist. And the black characters that were around him were free then to call him all kinds of names. I don't know if you're supposed to use the H word or what, but honky was one of them that they could use freely. Now, the offshoot of that show was one called the Jeffersons, where you had an upwardly mobile black man, George Jefferson, who was in the dry cleaning business. He, in his idea, achieved the American dream. And because of that, he moves on up. He's able to keep his family safe, warm, fed, and dry in an upscale type of way. You would think that the success would cause him to put aside the anger because he was successful by the work of his brow, sweat of his brow, and the work of his hands, and his family along with him working to become successful. They achieve the American dream, which is to keep his family safe, warm, fed, and dry. And in his case, they were able to do it in absolute style. But the anger of the black man was still there, regardless of the success. And he then had to not only rail or reveal that anger against white people, but also at that time against interracial couples. And he had the leeway, the carte blanche, to refer to white people as honkies and interracial couples and their children as zebras. The leeway was there, and that leeway is still there. Not so much with the interracial couples anymore, but certainly with those who are white. There's an imbalance there. There's an imbalance that is being created along with the stereotype. So the stereotype created of Archie Bunker is the white racist. The stereo created of George Jefferson is the angry black man. And that is whether he has money or not. Good times. J.J. Evans, the star of the show. Now, wonder what stereotype they want to achieve with him. When I return, I will share with you that stereotype, because that one is one that is most prominent today. The white conservative does not care what you think of him. The prosperous black male does not care what you think of him. But that J.J. Evans character, we'll talk about him in just a minute.
We could start a company.
CL, back with you, dealing with the issues of the day. And one of the issues of the day, and at least one of the things that revolve around these issues, is the fact that we don't talk about the things that truly matter, and that is the root causes. The root causes of there being such hatred in this country toward this current president is not just because Donald J. Trump is the president. That came from somewhere. It originated somewhere. We've talked about the Archie Bunker. We've talked about the angry black man. in George Jefferson. Let's talk about Good Times and the character that they used. The star of that show was a fellow by the name of J.J. Evans. Jimmy Walker is the comedian who is, by the way, a conservative. Yeah. Jimmy Walker, J.J., is actually a conservative these days. Does a lot of comedy still, but he's a conservative comedian. Amazing, isn't it? But let me tell you what they were trying to achieve with J.J. Evans. They created for black youths a buffoon. Yeah. And they created for America an image of a buffoon that represented in the minds of America, black and white, buffoonery. They created a step and fetch it type of character. Yeah. That was there to entertain in so many stereotypical ways and present to America who progressive liberal Hollywood still believe in their limited world that black America is. You are aware that Hollywood has actually created the narrative of who white America, black America, and we're going to talk about Chico and the Man here in just a minute, and Latin America and Latino America is. And not only have they created the image, but they have been the salesman and the promoters of keeping that image going. How do they do that? By buying people who will sell their talents to keeping that image alive. Talented people who they make wealthy in order to keep an image that they created alive. You call them stars. Yeah, you call them incredible entertainers. And the talent level, I cannot deny that the talent level is absolutely there, but the roles that are to be played by them are certainly their perpetuations of Hollywood creations. There's a lot of money in buffoonery. Chico and the Man. Yeah. The mantra from that show, coming from the mouth of a Latino male in Los Angeles, California, this was his mantra. It's not my job. It's not my job. That is the image of Latinos that Hollywood wanted to portray and present to you. And it is one also that has stuck. Now, Jane and I lived in Los Angeles for many, many years, Southern California. Well, in the Pomona area, San Gabriel Valley area, we lived there for many years. All of it has changed now from the time going back nearly 40 years when we were out there. It's so America has changed. Compton has changed. We never lived in Compton, but we had many friends in Compton, Southern California, Long Beach, up in Pomona, Montclair, Claremont, all Diamond Bar. We had friends all over Southern California, but it's all changed. And the image, though, that Hollywood painted of Latinos has stuck. Many Americans, believe it or not, believe that the mantra still is in their mouth, it's not my job. But the Mexican people that we knew, and the ones we knew were here legally, they were the hardest working people I had ever seen. They had a code for family. that I don't think any ethnic group in the country could rival. And the angst that is now there in this nation is not about the ones that I'm describing. It's about something else. But the Hollywood narrative would want to make you believe that it's about that person who says it's not my job. So there you have the seeds of division that were planted many years ago before there was any real political empowerment by any of the four that we named, because back in the 70s, you had the age going on where Jimmy Carter would become president of the United States. And then you had the attitude, once Jimmy Carter was not the president of the United States, toward Ronald Reagan, because America, it was very convenient for liberals to paint him as an Archie Bunker type. And the beat goes on. I'll be back to close it out in just a minute.
If you had not have fallen, then I would not have found you. Angel flying too close to the ground.
Well, folks, that is the close of yet another C.L. Bryant show. And over this 3-year period, I've really it has been a great journey that we have taken together. It has been a great journey. And I intend to continue the journey with you. I am determining over this weekend, I am determining over the next 7 days, matter of fact, just how that can happen. I can tell you that in this evolutionary process, there are several things that I'm seriously considering. I've been talking to you about it since, 6 months or a year. I've been talking to you about it. And now there are various forces at work in the industry and in this business that can make certain things occur, and I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. You have been, all of you, the wind beneath this show's wings, and you will continue to be. In one way or another, you will definitely continue to be. But I want to thank everybody who is associated with this show for making it so successful over the last 3 years. Didn't know if I could do radio and bring the type of flavor to the airways as I do to the stage, the live stage presentations that I do. But the good Lord has blessed us. The good Lord has caused us to create a message that other people do, in fact, want to hear and need to make that happen. I just need to know how to do that in a way where you and I continue our journey together as well. Well, don't forget that Thomas Jefferson once said to us, and it's very important for us to remember, that the price of our liberty is eternal vigilance. Eternal vigilance. You be sure to watch. You be sure to be ready to fight if you need to, and pray. Well, I want to thank God for bringing us to the close of yet another day, and I want to thank Him for our men and women in uniform who defend our right to speak our minds. And until I'm able to talk to you again, I'm CL, and may God bless and keep you all.
To the families left behind, we'll stand by your side, and the bond will never be torn.